Why does Acts chapter 12 matter? Hey, my name is Eric Johansson. This video is designed to support my Bible reading challenge. Links in the descriptions. But this is a summary of Acts chapter 12. And my question is, why does Acts chapter 12 matter? Well, there's a couple of important things in this chapter. So let's jump right into it. Acts 12:4 in the King James Bible says this: and when he had apprehended him, he put him in prison. Okay, so this is Herod. So, and when he, Herod, apprehended him, this is talking about Peter, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people. Well, what is this thing with Easter? All right, so whether you're looking at my screen on YouTube or whether you're looking at my notes, what I've done is provided, I'm not going to read all these different versions. Okay, I make no bones about the fact that I'm an advocate for the King James Bible. I only use other versions to compare why I think they're wrong. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to slow roll through these, and you're going to notice that virtually all other modern popular Bible versions use the word Passover instead of Easter. Let me just slow roll through this. I've highlighted the word Passover. Again, if you're watching this anywhere else or listening to it, it's all in the notes. So clearly, we see this distinction between the King James Bible and all of these other mainline Bibles. One says Easter, all the rest say Passover. I bet you probably never heard this discussion before. If you have, great. I invite you to wade into this discussion in the comments, wherever you are, wherever you're seeing this. Let's talk about it. But these are going to be my thoughts on this issue. So Acts 12:4 is one of those defining verses in this long-standing debate over, which Bible version is best. Okay, and again, I make no bones about it. I've decided that the King James Bible is the only version for me. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying maybe you should understand some things and make a decision for yourself. All right, so this debate of, which is the best Bible version, it's led a lot of people to do this kind of popular, and it kind of sounds posh and scholarly habit of reading and studying from multiple versions as a way of believing that you're going to be more enlightened as to what God said. Okay, I personally do not ascribe to that way of doing things. I think that this leads to just further confusion. So Easter and Passover are not the same thing. There's no argument about that, unless you go down this scholarly path and the Greek path, and then you try to meld this all together, and then you just try to, shrug it off as like it all says the same thing. All right, well, I'm going to tell you this, my friend. God does not mince words. He just doesn't. God never kind of shrugs his shoulders and goes, well, that's what I meant. Or, whatever, or, all these common quips that people use today to kind of make it sound like everything's the same. Well, it's not. The reason why words are spelled differently is because they're different. So what do you do with that? That's the challenge. If you've seen this, you can't unsee it. So what are you going to do about it? I'm not going to tell you what to do about it. I'm just bringing this to your awareness. All right, so as for this Herod that's mentioned in Acts 12:1, he was a Roman leader. He was the ultimate political figure with a habit of brutally killing those that opposed or threatened his rule. He was the grandson of Herod the Great. Herod the Great is the one that sought to kill Jesus shortly after he was born. If you remember in the story in Matthew chapter 2, verses 16 through 18, but Herod the Great was so threatened by the birth of Jesus, and then not knowing exactly when he was born and all that, he went about that whole region and killed all the babies that were 2 years and younger. And he figured that that was his way of wiping out Jesus Christ. Of course, it failed. Okay, so the Herod that we're talking about, again, was the grandson of Herod the Great. And this man simultaneously feared and hated this new thing called Christianity. And so he was more than happy to, kill these Christians and imprison them. And, it made the Jews happy. And, of course, Herod, being the great pagan that he was also a great politician. He was the governor over large groups of people and large areas of, land and country. So he was a politician and he was a pagan. Doesn't sound all that different from our own government today, does it, in America? Lots of pagans in our government. All right. So Herod, being this pagan, it just meant that he worshiped whoever and whatever served and pleased him. Okay. That's pretty common for people to do. It's kind of the nature of humanism. People just decide, I'll worship this, I'll worship myself, I'll worship whatever. Okay. It's common. But here's the thing. This man was very concerned about Easter. He didn't want to upset Easter by killing people. And so he left Peter in prison, intending after Easter to kill him. This man didn't want to upset. Easter was a very big pagan holiday. Herod, being a pagan, didn't want to upset that. And he knew the Jews would tolerate it. They would wait. They were just happy that Peter was in prison. Okay. All right. So on to the rest of Acts chapter 12 in this summary. Acts 12, 6-7 is simply the telling of Peter's miraculous escape from prison by an angel of the Lord, showing himself to the people that were likely praying for his release and then couldn't believe it when they saw him at their door. Okay. So that's verses 6-17. Verses 20-24. It speaks of the death of Herod for accepting the praise of men, for being godlike, and then not giving, the glory to God. And then the very last verse of this chapter basically just concludes by telling us almost matter-of-factly that Barnabas and Saul returned from Jerusalem. And that's how the chapter ends. So it's a significant chapter, as I guess all are. It's kind of a silly thing to say, but it's again, I often refer to the book of Acts as the book of great transition, and this chapter highlights that aspect. There's a lot of things going on and a lot of changes happening. So that's all I've got for you today. I hope that this has helped you understand this chapter better or encourage you in some way. And look, I'd love if you could share this with somebody or subscribe to my channel. All of that helps me and encourages me, and I appreciate you being here. I hope that you have a great Bible read. Thanks.